Everybody go get yourself a new cup of coffee.
Possibly sitting in their underwear. Not that that was me. I didn't do that.
Yeah, well,
I got my PJ bottoms on and fluffy socks. This is
the good
gum.
news is that they accidentally put their video on, you know, it's everybody online and me. We don't usually broadcast
That's it,
those,
yeah.
those fails over the,
After we
the
have a
internet.
Zoom meeting.
I don't, I think Michelle wanted to have live. Did you dress up, Michelle?
I absolutely did. I'm wearing my PJs, fuzzy socks, but I'm looking fine.
Okay, here comes the time where I'm going to ask a couple of phone numbers, if you don't mind identifying yourself. I got one ends in 825. (825) phone number ends in 825.
6825 is me, Blair, Tom Colby.
Ah, thank you, Tom. All right, and then I also have a 344. Phone number ends in 344. Area code 331 ends in 344. If you don't mind identifying yourself. Okay, Mr. Caius, whenever you're ready, I'm good.
Karen will tell me if I'm ready.
Okay.
Right.
First and second, and then a roll.
Last name first in there,
And then hopefully more.
unless you've changed it.
And then this is a voice. And then we're gonna defer these, so we don't actually have to hold on. Okay, thank you.
You straighten me out if I forget, if I get started. Good morning. My name's Chris Caius. I'm chairman of the, see, which committee? This is so new. Administration Committee here at Kane County. We have present with us our committee members, some new members. David Brown, Mr. Martin is here. Chris Hansen is here, our chair.
And then online you have Berman, Sanchez, Bates, Gums, Molina, and Tepe.
Great. And we have Mr. Froz, Mr. Ford, and visiting Miss Allen here for moral support. Great. So call the meeting to order. And we will do, Drew's going to call me if I don't get it right. We will do a roll call. There,
Ready?
who's present?
Berman?
Here.
Thank you. Ford?
Here.
Frost?
Here.
Gooms?
Gums is here.
Gums? Woniggy?
Oh, Barb said she had personal things.
Okay. Martin?
Present.
Okay.
And Caius present. All right. I think the first order of business is the approval of minutes. And we, I believe, will be deferring those unless there's some comment. Other than that, we're going to defer those until January meeting and take care of both last month and this month's approvals at that. So we'll just move on to the finance report. Is there anybody here for the finance? All the records are on file and attached. So then public comment. Anybody in the room here for public comment? No? Anybody online? All righty. Then we can move on to the next item, which is facilities management. And that would be Mr. Allen.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Thank you. The multi-use facility, can we bring up the picture, Blair?
Yeah, just a moment.
So recently we had a tour with, at that time, Madam Chairman-elect Herogue and several of the other board members, a couple of the other board members, and I think that went very well. I hope it was very informative for all parties involved. And our next scheduled tour is with the coroner's office on the 21st at 3 o'clock. And of course, anybody else that wants to attend, just let me know so I make sure I have enough protective equipment for everybody. But look forward to that as well. And we're also working with scheduling the sheriff on a tour as well. And he obviously is a much busier man than most of us right now.
When did you say the next tour is?
21st, sir, at 3 o'clock on site. We'll meet at the construction trailer, do a safety briefing, and then make sure all PPE fits properly.
And you just take that road down the old entrance and move right into
And
the
actually,
building.
the jailhouse side road is now available as well. So if you go in front of the judicial center and continue through there, you'll be able to get the public access area. So there's 2 entrances and exits at this time. Okay, moving on. I believe we have another picture from another face. And same crew. Any questions on that? Okay, and then we have a updated video that was provided by the Sheriff's Department and Detective Kadich, who is present here today. So what you're seeing there is the building management side of the facility. We're going to then be flying in. This is drone footage, by the way. We'll be flying into what's referred to as the Sheriff's side or center. You can see the bays. Currently, all the doors are now set. The exterior doors are all now set and functioning. So that's buildings tightened up to the weather. We have interior heating provided by propane heaters. So the ongoing drywall taping mudding is going smooth. The corner's near complete. And starting the other day, they started priming the walls. Now the drone is
Yes.
heading.
Recently, I became aware that we had a problem with
That Mark Davis.
I wanted rock music behind it, but I guess I'm getting something else.
Well, as the drone continues to fly, we're looking at the corner side. You'll soon see the Sally Port in view. And then we'll tour the back side, the non-public side. So what we just looked at would be known as the public side of the facility. There's the entrance to the Sally Port for the coroners. And going back here will be the area for secure parking for the county employees and vehicles.
Will those tarped areas on the top, those be power or
That is all gone now, sir. The roof is complete. It's had an inspector out the other day, so we can move on to the warranty phase of giving the roof warranty.
The black tarp areas are for rooftop units that we're waiting their arrival for,
Oh.
HVAC units.
thank you.
Excuse me. Again, the back side of the sheriff's area.
Well, what did we do before we had drones? This is great.
Tall ladders or tall people.
Is that the permanent color of the roof, white?
Yes,
Perfect, okay.
Until we put solar panels up there.
correct.
More perfect.
Okay. The salt dome is near complete. It wasn't framed up at the time of the video, but the next video will include the salt dome on that end. Anybody have any questions on the video? If not, I'll continue on with my briefing.
When was that taken, Chris?
Was that 2 weeks ago, Ed?
About 2.5 weeks ago.
Okay, so moving on to some of the capital projects that are ongoing in the county right now. All UV lighting and bioclimatic filters are project at all the county facilities is going as planned. The Building C projects are all on schedule. The Building A generator, which you can see right outside this window here, is still on schedule. Waiting for the arrival of the generator or the pad and the generator itself. And as we discussed, the MUF is currently on schedule. Pending any questions, that'll complete my capital projects update.
Great. And Mr. Froz?
Yeah, I'd just like to add one thing on the new building out there. We've had an ongoing paperwork issue between the city of St. Charles, who supplies our water, and the county, who owns our own internal campus system, and the Illinois EPA, which gives a permit. And it's been going on for weeks, but we finally got it worked out last week. They determined that we did not need an IEP permit. So as we speak, they're just about ready to make this little 4-foot connection between the water supply and our new system. And so we'll have water to the building today. So all the tradesmen can have water for different uses, and we'll be able to test our pipes before they're enclosed in the walls and things like that. So big milestone today with the water turn on.
Great. That's been going on for quite a while, I think.
Yeah,
If I
and
read
again,
the,
it was frustrating because it wasn't a physical problem. It was really just a
the report.
jurisdiction problem. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
And I do want to mention, State Rep Keith Wheeler was a tremendous help with that, dealing with the IEPA, and he really jumped into it with both feet, researched it, brought in a former IEPA director to help him, and got it resolved.
Great. There any other questions or comments on the floor here? Anybody online? Questions? Okay. Let's move on then to item 6. Or let's see, yeah, item 6. Information technology, Mr. Fonstock.
So, good morning. We have one resolution for the committee, and that resolution is authorizing the approval of 2021 aerial ortho imagery. So with that, I'd request a motion and a second. We can do a description and kind of explain what we're doing with that.
I'll entertain a motion. Mr.
Berman.
Martin? Martin moves, and was that?
Berman,
on? Better get
yeah.
somebody online. Sorry.
Berman.
Mr. Berman second. Okay, Roger,
Okay.
the floor is yours.
So the aerial ortho imagery is a contract that we take out to do obviously the images of Kane County. Those images are geometrically corrected so that you can measure distance, and they're accurate basically for the purposes of use in development and other property maps that we use in the county. The request for bids was put out. We received 9 responses. The lowest response was from Ssa International for $94,800. It is a 1-year term. There's an option for 3 renewals. It is a budgeted expense. This is paid for from GIS special revenue, so it's coming from the recorded fees. This is something that we traditionally do every year to get the ortho imagery and the geometrically corrected images. So with a budgeted expense, 1-year contract, $94,800 with Ssa International, and we're recommending approval. And I do believe Tom Nikowski, our GIS chief, is online if you have any questions for Tom. Tom, are you there?
I am.
Okay. Tom would be the expert in GIS, and he certainly could answer the questions probably better than I, but any questions, please?
Welcome, Tom. Are there any questions? Well, let's see, I'll entertain a motion from the floor, or do we have that? Okay, that's right. I got to start writing it down. All right. Any other comments from the floor or from the online? Hearing none, seeing none. Call roll.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Fries,
Yes.
Gooms, Martin,
Martin, yes.
Martin, yes. Okay, it passes.
Okay. Caius, yes, too. Did you hear from Michelle Gums?
Gums was a yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Passes. The next item is Mill Creek SSA. I believe that goes back to you again, Chris.
Thank you, sir. The one discussion item I have is the Mill Creek SSA coordinator's position has been vacant since August. With the passing of the moratorium recently, I would request that if it pleases the committee and the chairman to go ahead and post and fill that position. I don't think we need to do a resolution now.
We don't have one. Would it be a consensus then of the committee?
Are you?
You have
are
a
asking
comment,
for-
Mr.
I
Frost?
didn't know if you want to make a motion or you just,
Well,
we just need
if
consent.
it's just a consensus, I don't know that there's a motion. Is there?
Yeah, we could do it by consensus because we're actually, because of the moratorium, we have to ask every time we replace somebody.
Right.
So we need consensus to do that. I would maybe just real briefly explain for the new members about the SSA.
Sure.
The Mill Creek subdivision, which is just west of Geneva and has a Geneva mailing address, is actually the largest unincorporated subdivision in the county, and it is overseen by this board. The county board acts over many of the services that are provided out there. And because we wanted to have local input, we started what's called a SSA Advisory Board, and it's a group of like 8 local citizens that sit on a committee and advise the county so that we can have more of a local input on those decisions we make. So we have a board. It meets every couple of months. The chairman appoints those members of the board. And so when you hear about the Mill Creek SSA, that's what we're talking about. It's a little bit unique because there aren't too many subdivisions and none of that size that the county oversees. So
I believe it's 2,200 homes and growing, sir.
yeah, so it's the size of a small town, and we provide most of the services.
We provide the services and they pay for them.
Yeah, and there is other bodies, like there's a Mill Creek Water Rec that does the sewer, water, and storm system. The township does the roads. So the SSA does a lot of the common area maintenance of mowing, Christmas decorations, parkway tree replacement, and things like that. So you'll hear a lot about it, and that's why it's kind of a unique thing that you should know about and how it functions.
Mr. Martin, did you have a comment?
Actually, you made the point that I was going to. The important thing to remember is we don't pay for it as a county. There is, by definition, a special service area is a increment added to their real estate tax bill, and the homeowners pay all these expenses that are incurred. So this does not impact the county's budget. It just simply is an assumed responsibility for which we're reimbursed by the homeowners.
It's about an $800,000 budget, all from within the subdivision itself. So when we approve something, it's coming from their funds. But the position that we're talking about here today is not new, but it's only been around about 6 years. And before that, the local county board member went out and looked at cracks in sidewalks and trees that need replaced.
Was his name Frost?
Yeah, and it was a lot of work. So it's been a godsend having those couple of people that did it, but Bill Earl are retired, and that's why the position's open.
Great. And this is actually, this is among many of the SSAs that we have, but this is the largest, right?
By far the largest.
We have a number scattered all over the county. I have a map if anybody would like to see it sometime of all the SSAs that were, at least the last time we voted, were effective.
Yeah, most of them are, say like a 30 lot subdivision.
Right.
And again, this is 2,200 homes, and it's got a downtown and everything a small village would have. So.
And those others are limited to things like water, drainage.
Correct.
They needed water system put in, and so they want to pool all the money. We collect the money and pay for the system, maybe front it, and then they pay for it over a period of time. And it allows them to get a larger system that's affordable.
A little background.
Yeah. And was there anything that you wanted to add about the position and what they do? Are you pretty well covered?
Well, I've been covering it since August, and it is very active. The community members out there are very engaged with myself and others. They truly care for their unique community, and the services they get are very much needed and supported.
Okay, well, maybe the best thing, since we are online and have members, we could just do a roll call just for the consensus.
Of course. Berman,
Berman, yes.
Board,
Yes.
Fries,
Raz, yes.
Gooms,
Gums is yes.
I apologize.
That's okay. Take a minute.
Martin,
Martin, yes.
Caius,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, sir, I have a couple other updates on the SSA that are going on now.
Okay, great.
As I had reported to the committee earlier, the seasonal stump grinding is now complete. All the holes have been filled with fresh dirt, and soon to come is going to be the seeding and blanketing. So we'll have grass in spring start to move on. The weather has been kind of harsh this year on the wreaths and the garland and the Christmas decorations. I've been receiving a lot of calls, but we're kind of in a situation where what we have right now is what we have unless we can come up with something additional. And that's all I have with the SSA at this time, sir.
Okay.
One other, I apologize, I misspoke. And then Mr. Froz and I are working on scheduling the next SSA Advisory Committee meeting.
And I recommend, I think I went out to at least one of the meetings out there at the SSA. The group meets out there monthly, do they?
It's generally bi-monthly or as needed, but
It's a-
anybody's welcome to
It's
come.
a public meeting.
Yeah, it's a public meeting. There's a small office that we lease in the Mill Creek downtown building. So it's,
Well, due to the size of that little office, the meetings have been moved to here in the auditorium downstairs so people
Oh.
can better socially distance. It's not a very large, it's good for little construction meetings, but you know, the amount of public attendance it's not really safe to support right now,
Right.
so.
Well, not a lot of public attendance out there, maybe when I saw, but
no.
yeah. But it's very enlightening to be, to see the community and see how it operates. Okay, thank you.
I have nothing further on the SSA this time.
Thank you, Mr. Allen, with the need. All righty. Vehicles, I don't believe we have any vehicles on, I'm having listed. And then construction. Is that back to you?
It is, I have nothing further to add that hasn't already been briefed, sir.
Okay. Nothing new on construction. The next item, I believe, is that's listed on the agenda is the discussion of Fabian property, 40-acre site of the old jail and its future use. And Mr. Martin, you have something to comment?
For the benefit of new members, we've been discussing at some length over a period of time what, in fact, we should do with the Fabian, what we call the Fabian property, which is, I think it's 37 acres. Don't hold me to that number, but it's the old jail site, the old sheriff's office. It currently operates as the sheriff's repair facility and impound facility, and there have been varying discussions and starts and stops, but in conversation today with, I spoke with Mr. Fonstock, we are now in the process, as we know from yesterday's meeting, of engaging a new architectural firm. And part of theirs, and I'm going to ask Roger to expand upon this statement when I'm done, part of the responsibility for which they are charged in the bid documents is in fact to put together a revised master plan. We have an old one prepared by White and Company that I don't know how old it is. It predates my time on the board. And I think it basically dealt with the campus on 38 only. And as I understand it, the new charge will include not only the Fabian property, but this site that we operate in here, and then the two parcels out on Route 38, which are the one that is obviously active because it has the judicial center on it and the new construction we've talked about, and then across 38 North is a vacant parcel that again is additional inventory. So in as much as we will presumably in the regular course of events have a formal recommendation from the architectural firm, my suggestion to the committee is that we defer conversation on this until we have the backdrop of some expertise. And having arrived at the conclusion before I gave Roger, I said I would defer to Roger to explain it, but to the degree I was off, just.
Sure. I think that the only thing I would say is that it's a qualifications-based analysis. So they're proposing their qualifications to be selected as an architect and engineering firm for the county. And then at some point, those qualifications in that review process, I think Mr. Allen needs to review with the committee chair and some of the folks to see where we're at in that process. I think there were 6 or 7 responses. And
13.
Well, I think after the first, there was a larger group, and then there was a smaller group that was reviewed. But I think that's something that the committee chair and Mr. Allen need to get together on and look at that process in particular. But the result of that would be an architect and engineering firm that you could engage for a master plan. You can engage them for construction or projects, architect projects throughout the county. And that's what we use for a basis for our capital projects. So I think the current project under the multi-use center will be wrapping up in the spring, but this has been a topic, I think, since the beginning of the multi-use center is the architect and engineering services that the county uses.
Yeah, to elaborate on Mr. Fonstock, per the RFP quality-based that we sent out, obviously we had a large interest in us, and we were able to select more than one firm due to specialties and ranges of capabilities for the counties as well.
Okay, any other, Madam Chairman?
Question.
Can you use your microphone? I like to tell you what to do.
Here it is. It's not,
Use your
here it
microphone.
is. Thank you. Question. Has the board considered hiring just one architectural firm as it currently has, or is it contemplating hire two?
So the original request for qualifications are, I think it gives us the option of doing one or two. I think the discussion with this committee and the different interests would decide at this committee. So I think you don't have a resolution today. You'll have one probably next month. And whatever the direction is of the committee and the shareholders, that I think that's what we would put forward. We've done some where we have more than one architect and engineering firm. And a lot of times that's based on the types of work, if they're better at one type of area versus another. The other thing is availability of resources. So if we have more than one project and we need more resources, we could use both firms, one for small projects, one for other projects. So it does come in handy. You can also use that to get different opinions and different proposals. So they may have different ideas about how to get the same work done. And you could look at the two different proposals and their costs. That would also be competitive between the two in that regard. So it could be to our benefit, but you could certainly do one if you prefer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Excuse me, in my history, oops, Mr. Ford, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. How much has Geneva been involved in any of the conversations with this property? The city of Geneva.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Martin,
Fry?
Mr. Martin represents Geneva, and I'm just west of Geneva. So we met with the city, the mayor, and their development group and economic development director. And yeah, they've been very involved. The property would be under their zoning and development jurisdiction. So we want to keep them happy. And again, as somebody that was born and raised in Geneva, I grew up reading the paper about, they put up with the landfill for many, many decades. And it was always promised that would end up being a state-of-the-art recreational area. And the same thing kind of goes with this property is, they would like to see some benefit. Geneva's pretty much landlocked as far as new development. So 40 acres on a major highway is a big deal for their economic development department. And they want to be involved. So yeah, they've been involved all along and will continue to be, not only as a gesture from us, but also legally as the zoning agency and being in the city limits.
I know it got sidetracked a little bit, but when our initial discussions about having more than one architect, we consulted the state's attorney who advised us that we could have as many architectural firms as we wanted under contract so that we could have 7 or 10. So we could rely on choosing any one of those which best fit the project, which is what you said there. So it's not limited to your question. It's not limited to one, and some believe that it's better to have more than one and maybe several so that we can have a choice and without going through the whole process of doing an RBO and vetting them, which takes a long time. We could just call them right away, just as we do the one, but we have more options, which might prove to be more price effective and actually better in the long run for the effectiveness, suitability. Okay, I had another thought too, but was there anybody else that has other Mr. Frost?
I guess, again, I'm just thinking of the new members that are here on the committee and listening in. Just a little bit of history on the what we refer to as the Fabian property. A long time ago, the board at the time decided to, build the Peck Road campus, and the jail was moved out there, the Juvenile Justice Center was moved out there, the sheriff's office was moved out, our evaluation building, what's the name of that, Deb? Not the, I call it Diagnostic Center was moved out of there. That was kind of the first round of new construction and moves. And currently the sheriff has his maintenance facility there, the bomb squad, the emergency services equipment, and the impound area. And with the construction and completion of the new multi-use facility come April, all those other uses will be vacated from the property. So that's why we're talking about this now. And
Yeah, almost all.
almost all.
But we do have a recycling.
Yeah, the
recycling.
recycling is kind of, there's no structures, so,
Right.
that we'd have to find a new home for the
Yeah, we need to
recycling.
keep that in mind.
And then the communications antenna will be moved out of there also.
At some, there's no design right now. Is there a plan to
Well,
take the
Roger,
communication out of there?
the new.
There is a proposal for a new tower. It's actually adjacent to the Salt Dome at the Multi-Use Center. So we have not brought that in for review yet. We do have a proposal for that. You'll be seeing that probably in January.
Great.
And,
All right.
and that
Mr.
tower replaces the one?
It is,
the old sheriff's tower?
it's a different design and construction. It's self-supporting. There are no wires. So it has a foundation and it goes up next to the salt dome. So there's no wires or anchors. The type of construction at Fabian is a guy wire tower. It takes up a couple acres of property to have that. This will be just self-supporting.
But this would replace the Fabian
Yes.
tower, okay.
Okay. Any other comments on the Fabian? Sounds like it's well under its way to getting a plan. Okay, is there anything under new business?
I have a few items, sir.
Sure.
Excuse me. Yes, Mrs. Allen asked me to revive a couple resolutions that had been tabled at one point in time, and one of those was with the green building policy, and the other one is with the energy efficiency study with the Sheriff's Department. I have since then collaborated with the Sheriff, Jody, and Detective Kadich is here, and I believe Jody's there to meet. We've had some wonderful meetings. Right now, as far as the green building policy, we're at a 99.9% solution, and that 0.01% is my problem, not Jody's, as well as the energy efficiency audit with the Sheriff's Department. Again, we met yesterday, and we have come to terms in an agreement. I can go further into that. I just want to give that update to Mrs. Allen and the committee that work is going on in the background, and if hopefully it'd be my intent, and I'm sure the sheriff's intent as well as Jody's intent, that those resolutions be revived in the next committee meeting in January and reviewed and discussed.
They'll be brought up as a resolution, an action item on the January agenda.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned Jody. Is Jody online? Did you have any other comments? Or oh, there she is there. Do you have any other comments, Jody? Oh, you're behind the podium. I can't see you back there.
About that. Just for the new board members, the county did receive a Lead for City and Community grant last January. We've been working with the experts in Washington, D.C. on this green building policy, which is part of the work we're doing under that grant. We did meet with Mr. Allen and have worked through making sure that the language is very clear for the committee. There were no major changes from what went through E&E committee, and I can go into any more detail if anyone has questions.
Any questions from the floor here or online? And are we talking about two separate items, the green building and?
Yes, sir. To go into more clarity with the sheriff and Detective Kadich and I met with is they submitted an audit, and the detective has a copy there, and what the sheriff and Detective Kadich had agreed to is any items that were as far as energy efficiency studies within the sheriff's buildings of purview is going to be pulled out of that. The sheriff has other items within that can go forward. And that was pretty much our real simple agreement. I also explained to the sheriff and Detective Kadich, as was mentioned earlier, once we get the new A&E contractor in place, we'll do a county-wide building assessment. And then with that information, we'll not only be able to share it with this committee, but we'll be able to sit down with the sheriff and go through that in detail for review and discussion as well. Does that pretty much sum it up, Detective? Do you have any other comment you'd like to add?
That's my job.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ed, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Let you know, this audit not only encompasses the sheriff's office facilities, but
Microphone and make sure it's on.
this audit not only encompasses all of the sheriff's office facilities, but it also includes our fleet of vehicles, so where we can become more energy efficient within our vehicles. So it's a complete package deal. And once it's completed, we can decide when we see the results, what items that we would like to address and what items we don't want to. So it's a go or no go for each individual item. It's not a complete package deal. We can choose what we want to enact and utilize.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Frost?
What?
No?
I'll take
Yes. Or I'm sorry.
Fonstock, how about that?
Yeah, Mr.
We'll go
Fonstock.
there.
Started with an F.
That's okay. My only question was whether or not the name of the company, which company did get selected?
Maresco?
Okay, Amerisco.
Maresco.
Okay. Because at one time, and the other question was whether or not it included anything to do with telecommunications, telephone, or internet service. Because at one time there was a talk about them looking into that.
There was a talk about it, but per your recommendation,
Okay.
you think that you really have a handle, and I agree 100% that
Okay.
you really have a handle and have our services down to a minimum expense.
Okay.
They may look at it, but it's all part of the package. And again,
Okay.
we pick and choose which portions we want to use.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, Mr. Frost, this time?
I'm going to ask you to spell that for the secretary.
Yeah, it's Maresco. It's A Adam, M Mary, E Edward, R Robert, E Edward, S Sam, C Charles, O Ocean. Ameresco. That company was selected through a request for proposal, 51019. They were selected through multiple candidates to perform the audit. They were vetted and then selected per their qualifications.
Okay. Any other comments on, oh, Miss Allen?
One of the things that I
My,
think
I'm sorry, Miss Allen, is your microphone on?
my little light is on. Is that better?
I,
Try another one.
Okay.
Is that better? Yeah, there we go.
better, yeah, thank you.
One of the things that we were trying to just check out was the idea is that you sign a contract with the vendor. Then the vendor is going to go through and do a review and will make suggestions out of that review as to the improvements that you can do that will save tons of money. The improvements are large enough that you may have to bond out for those. And the idea is that then you would be paying your bond and you would be able to pay the bond with the savings. And you'd also be able to pay the vendor's fee, in this case, I think about $9,000 with the savings also. So it's a win-win proposition. And I think one of the things that the committee wanted to be able to think about was having committed to doing this, suppose you decide to do nothing. You're still going to need to pay that $9,000 fee. And if you want to go forward, you may have to bond out in order to be able to pay for the improvements. And we can expect them to work out the way the company predicts because that's their job and they know how to do it. It's just that sometimes you have to kind of be prepared to sell it a little bit in case things don't work out. We're still going to be on the line for those responsibilities. So that's what the committee gets to think about. Thank you.
The savings on any of those items, was that guaranteed that they would save money on that end?
Multiple, Ameresco is one of the companies of many that could possibly perform the work. And at least 3 of the companies that we had talked to in discussions have guaranteed their savings. And they said that if we do not achieve the projected savings, they will write us a check for the difference. We did speak with also many municipalities that actually had similar work done, and we have yet to find one that said that they've ever received a check. They said they've not only met, but it exceeded their savings. So, and hopefully we'll achieve the same results if we go forward.
Great. Okay. Anything else on that item? Anything from the online? All right.
I have just a couple other updates for the committee, sir.
Certainly.
Yeah, so currently, just so you know, we've got a small to medium project going on over at the sheriff's jail. There's a current airflow efficiency issue there. We're looking at multiple solutions as well as multiple funding sources. So there could be more to follow on that. I just wanted to put that out there. The Building A 4-floor project is being scheduled, and that's increased access controls. And I've been contacted by Andrea at Court Services, and I advised her on how to extend the sanitizing services at the courts. And I received a call from Doug today, and I'll be joining their Zoom meeting for further discussion.
Okay.
That's all I have.
That's informative. Nothing that we need to act upon here.
No, just keeping the committee advised of some of the large moving things as the COVID CARES Act funds start to come to an end.
You want to make sure that you spend it all. Back. CARES money. Yeah, great. Okay. Anything else for new business? Mr. Fonstock.
So one of the topics of discussion has been social distancing and how this room is arranged. As you're aware, when we have a full quorum of the board, this room gets relatively congested quickly with the limitations we have on seating. So one of the thoughts and recommendations that we have is to look at chairs that can be connected, disconnected in rows. And it's not something that we need to go out to bid or RFP for. It's not that substantial. We just need a recommendation and consensus on the chairs. I know this has been addressed in previous boards and it has never really been ordered or resolved, but with consensus of this group, we would look at chairs, basically whatever color you prefer, and try to get those. The idea would be that as the pews are set up right now, it's very difficult to use the space that's available and to get people separated out. We can't move the pews and adjust them. They're pretty fixed. And then you have the attractive yellow caution tape, which is what we use to keep people from sitting in the pews. We could actually pull chairs out, put chairs in, we can separate them out, use the floor space better. So what we're looking for is if the committee would like to get chairs, they're fabric covered chairs. There's a couple examples here. There was also a discussion that we should get arms for the chairs so that people have an armrest on the chair. But mainly we would be looking for just the color and preference. So I don't know if anyone else has any questions or comments, but we're looking for some direction and if you want us to proceed.
Okay. Mr. Ford?
Thank you. I think the chairs would be a good idea. I would be for it. I'm not a interior decorator, but it seems like the gray would just fit right along with what's going on here. And I would like to see what would be the difference in cost with having arms on the chairs.
Do you have figures for that?
So most of the chairs that we looked at that did not have arms were about $35 to $40. So you know, with 60 chairs, you'd be around $2,500. With arms, I think you add another $15 per chair. So it would be almost, 50%, maybe more, somewhere in the 4,500 to 5,000.
Mr. Frost?
And the arms don't detract of the total number of chairs that we can have.
No, they're interlocking chairs. I believe they're 20, 21-inch wide chairs, and they're stackable even with the arms.
Yeah, so, just a little bit of history. Before the county bought this campus, it was the Sacred Heart Seminary. This was the church, so those are pews. They've been here ever since. They're not real comfortable. As a matter of fact, one prospective board member used to bring his own cushion and keep it in the back closet.
It's still in the back closet.
Still there.
If anybody needs it.
Stand by.
But the one thing that appealed to me, I did support this. The one thing that appealed to me is there is kind of a natural human nature to not want to sit shoulder to shoulder with somebody. And with the individual chairs, I think we would get more utilization because everybody tends to leave a space between them on the benches where hopefully they would use these a little bit more. I was amazed at the price. I thought $2,500. That was about a third or a quarter of what I expected the price to come in. Miss Allen, as former chair, was in favor of keeping the pews and had a kind of a pilot test of some cushions made so that pew number 1 there has a cushion on it. But I'm in favor of moving forward with the chairs. I think it's very economical. I would ask though that the pews be stored and noted, that they are somewhat historical in a sense, and maybe someday we can find a use for them. I think some of them ended up in the hallways around the building currently. As a matter of fact, right outside of the county board office, there's one. So I'd like to hang on to them and make sure they just don't get, sent out to the landfill or something.
Mr.
Yes.
Roger, do you have a comment on that?
Yes, we would try to locate, pews in the hallway for guests that are waiting in the, but I think, you could probably have maybe one per floor, or they are big pews, so they do take up a lot of space if you put one in the hall. So we could certainly probably look at getting a couple of those in the building in places where there aren't seating in the hallway. And we can certainly store them or keep them as a part of the building somewhere. I don't see that as a problem.
Up on the mezzanine, there's a lot of room up there, Ed? Whoops. Sorry, bad joke.
We could use those for the training rooms in the new building, right? Keep everybody attentive.
Keep awake. Yeah. Anybody
Mr.
else
Chair
on the committee?
Gumbs?
Mr. Barton? Oh, I'll get to you just in a minute. Mr. Barton first?
I just, for the dollar figure involved and the fact that this seems to be a decision we ought to be able to make, I would, to Mr. Ford's point, say, let's get gray. It goes with the black that we have here for the rest of the chairs, and just move the project forward and complete it.
Okay.
Commissioner Berman,
Mr. Berman?
yes, I
You
think
have
it's a
the floor.
great replacement for the pews. I think it's much more comfortable sitting in the chairs of that nature, and obviously having them stackable and removable is fantastic. And gray seems to be the popular color of any interior decorating this year, so I'm in favor of that. So my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Berman.
Mr. Chair Gums.
Anybody else on the committee? Yes?
Gums.
Who's,
I
okay,
also
Michelle?
agree with the color gray, but I would like to see the arms on the chairs.
Yeah, I want arms too, to my point.
As Mr. Martin commenting that he wanted
Okay.
arms. Anybody else on the committee have a comment? Online? Miss Allen?
Respectfully, it wasn't a personal decision. We did poll the board and also asked the staff of the county who frequently have to sit in the pews, what their choices were. And the majority of both the staff and the board at that time was just to make the pews more comfortable, which is why we were looking at doing the cushions, a sample of which is there. Now, at the time that we did the poll, we didn't have a pandemic, and now we have a new board. So I would say just, ask again. People had affection for the pews because it stayed with the gravitas of the room, and people are certainly entitled to change their minds about that. But I think a poll was a fair way to find out what people thought.
Thank you, Miss Allen.
Mr. Chair,
Oh, sure.
My opinion
Brown?
as a new board member.
Sure. Yeah, jump
sure.
right in.
I would support the gray chairs with the arms, and I would support also keeping the pews for future use or wherever they can be placed.
Okay. Any other comments? I did have one question. The price, whether we have the arms or not, wouldn't affect whether we could buy them under the, we get them today.
No, it would not. I think the only challenge is, sourcing them and the fabric choice. We have to make sure they have them in stock to get them quickly before we would have another meeting. But we can certainly get working on that.
Okay. Madam Chairman.
As I'm looking at the pews, are they bolted down? Will we have to take a look at the carpeting underneath?
They're on the surface of the carpeting. We might need to do a little carpet cleaning, but I believe they're not cut into the carpet. So
Thank you.
I believe this carpeting probably is close to the age of the pews. I don't know. Some of the areas have been here, I know, at least 18 years. So it's held up well, I think.
Very good
Yeah,
carpeting.
you can push them right around. They move.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've leaned against them and have them move, so.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I am getting a feeling that the board is, or the committee is interested in having chairs that are gray in color with arms. Is that the way I read that? Anybody online have a comment?
Gums agrees with that.
Okay, so as a consensus, then why don't we just do a roll call, if we can do that for consensus again? For, this would be to, as consensus, to remove and store the pews and replace them with an example of the chairs that we have here with arms that are gray. Is that the way I read that from the committee?
I would say yes.
Any comments? Then we'll do a roll call just so we can hear people online and without a lot of noise.
Ready?
Go ahead,
Berman,
Karen. Thank you.
Berman agrees.
Ford,
I agree.
Fraz,
Yes.
Gums,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your work on this, Roger. And thank you, Miss Allen, for taking everybody into consideration, everything into consideration, and expressing it. Okay. Anything else in new business? Seems to me there was something, but I forgot to jot it down. Anything in old business?
Mr. Chair, Gums.
Yes. Michelle?
I am not sure if this falls under old or new, but the King County Connects, I watched the video on that. And I know there was some discussion about reaching out to finance to do a budget adjustment and create funding for our current writer to continue on. I think we should have a discussion on that.
I'm not sure if admin, I'd be happy to entertain if you think that this is an appropriate place for it with the committee. Mr. Fraz?
Yeah, I guess I'm glad she brought that up, so thank you. That's near and dear to my heart. Last month, we had a report from Mr. Feinstock because IT was asked to take over some aspects of that, which they did, and they made it somewhat easier, I think, for the operator of it to use. But the gist of the report, and Roger, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the gist of the report was they can handle all the IT aspects of it, but they don't create content. So again, the gist of the report was there's a big hole in the program because we don't have a content person, which was what Rick Nagel did. And I'm trying to think of how to say this nicely, but Mr. Nagel was the victim of a retribution, and that's why he's not here, and that's why this great program that was built over the last 8 years to 20,000 readers was dismantled in the last few months. So yeah, I'm all in favor of putting it back together. And a reference was made at the last executive committee about Rick and I being like childhood, lifelong friends. We were in high school at the same time, that's it. So I didn't get to know him well till he started working here.
I'm not sure, Mr. Fonstock, do you have a comment on that?
So I believe that Mr. Frost's characterization of what we are doing in IT is correct. It's accurate. We do have the ability to publish the newsletter and to update the website. We do not have content writers for the county, so we take articles from the offices and departments. We check them for the title, some grammatical and picture, and then we post it to the newsletter. So what transpired this past week was we took articles that were sent to us and we posted them to the site. The cycle between getting articles is where you get into a challenge where there's not anything specific from an office or department. The newsletter tends to sit idle. There's plenty of news that needs to be reported, and I think it needs to be a regular cycle of news, but that's not something that we have staff writers for. Rick Nagel filled that role in the past. It certainly is something that I think some of the offices and departments take advantage of, having someone that can write an article, whether it's Rick Nagel or someone else. We can post articles for now. I do think that in order to have a position like that, you would need to get obviously a position approved, a job description, and a budget adjustment to make that happen. You have to determine where in the organization you want that payroll or that salary to show up. I think in the past, it had been funded partially by riverboat funds and then partially through the county board budget. So that's the original source. It certainly could be, resurrected and put back into place through finance or executive committee. And I think the only real question would be, where do you get the revenue or the funds for that position? How much is it? Where do you budget it at? And then the description of the work that needs to be done. And then, ultimately in that job description, who does that person report to? So all those things could be, worked on. I think that IT, from what we do, we're comfortable with that. But I think that that's a question for the Madam Chairman, the committee. Tell us, give us direction. We're willing.
Yeah, I think as I understood it in the last meeting, they weren't exactly sure on what, the direction was. It was suggested that we reach out to the finance department first and then determine whether it was going to be full or part-time. Again, I'm going back to before I was not at that meeting, but just reviewed it. But I believe we have over 7,000 followers on social media, on one social media page. We have
20.
No.
Well, this is just social media. Also, we have over 20,000. I think it's 23,000 that follow it. I would hate to lose that ability for us to have a writer, and that would also eliminate each department's increased responsibilities to come up with content.
Mr. Martin?
I have a question and then perhaps a suggestion. Who should be, well, let me make my suggestion first and then I'll ask the question. What I'd like this committee to have, if in fact we're the jurisdictional committee, is a proposal that we can have before us that we can discuss, because I think the conversation has been somewhat hybridized since the IT department's gotten involved. There might be some aspect of what we did before that would be done by the IT department or whatever. Because last time, as I understood it, Rick Nagel was a freestanding deal. He published, he did everything. And I want to know who has jurisdiction over it. And that committee, if it's this one, I would like to have a proposal prepared that we could actually discuss rather than to just sit and talk at the table here about it.
So the only reason this committee is talking about it is because it was pushed over to IT 2 months ago, and last month, Mr. Fonstock gave us the report saying everything's in place and ready to go except for a content editor. So that's how it ended up here. So at this point, the logical trail would be, we could do a consensus today, or we could do a resolution next month, just acknowledging what Roger's report stated, and if we all agreed to that we should refill the position. Then it would go to finance to come up with the money. That was probably the smallest department in the county. And I think we could easily transfer some funds from reserves to reinstate it. And then it would go to exec and full county board. And so technically Rick was reporting to exec. That's who he reported to.
Rick was reporting to exec.
Correct.
As it stands now, it primarily under IT, which is the administration.
Correct. That's how it ended up back here and
Yeah.
why we can discuss it.
So, any other comments on the board? Mr. Ford?
Yes, thank you. I guess one clarification I'd like to see is exactly who this position report to.
Well, sure. I'm guessing if it starts here, then it would be reporting to the administration committee.
I think, let me clarify that. As far as what department would it be under? Would it stay under IT or would it be somewhere else?
That's a good question.
It's under the county board. It's under the county board office.
On administration, okay.
So which would be exec, but because it was pushed to IT, it came here now.
And that would make it appropriate to start the process in this committee possibly?
Correct.
Any comment from anyone else, or first of all, anybody else on the, or Mr. Fonstock, do you have anything that would help clarify?
I think it's important, the day-to-day operations of what this position would do, a lot of it comes through the county board office. So in the past, that position was at a location in the office. I do think that it would be advisable to get a job description together with Madam Chairman and others to make sure that you're incorporating the things that you want this person to be doing, and then bringing it to finance to fund the position appropriately. The county board office in the past had been the place where that payroll happened. You do have things that are day-to-day direction, and I think that a monthly meeting is probably not, sufficient interaction to direct a person, regarding stories. So having them in the board office, they get the pulse of things, they understand what's going on, they know what they need to respond to. So I think that's probably the right place for where that person needs to be. In IT, they're more than welcome to be in IT, but we do IT problems. We're not always in tune with what another office or department is looking to publish. So we certainly change gears and we give them the attention to get it published. But to get the article, to get the right facts, to get the right person's comment or quotes, and to get that direction on a day-to-day, because this newsletter has been going out day to day. Maybe we want to try and do twice a week or 3 times. I don't know what the schedule will be, but with that kind of frequency and having oversight be monthly, they can report to the executive committee as they have in the past. But to get that regular interaction and writing stories, I think it's important to be with the county board office.
And that's from what you're saying there, that's what I would suggest is that they report here, but they're directed on a day-to-day basis, possibly.
Absolutely.
By the administration. Well, let's see, one more time around the
Her hand up.
Berman.
Okay, Miss Allen?
I think, take the committee first.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's.
I thank you for the respect, but take the committee first.
Okay. Mr. Martin, you have a comment?
I think if I understand Mr. Fonstock correctly, what we're talking about, and I think what you've adopted as a thought too, is that we're in effect by consensus going to refer this to the county board office. And then it would become theirs in the executive committee, and I'm carrying it on, then that would mean we didn't as a committee have jurisdiction over this, correct?
I was thinking administration would have, because it falls under administration. Is that correct? But day-to-day direction would be.
Go ahead.
Because it was kicked back to IT, it now falls under this committee. And again, Mr. Feinstock pointed out the hole in the system right now. So it could very well go back to the county board and exec with the assistance of IT, and then leave this committee's jurisdiction. but it's here now, at least
As long as
that
we can
one
get,
has.
well, I'm anxious to see something started.
So the
We
appropriate,
move it.
I think the appropriate action, if everybody's in agreement, is to either do consensus today or put a resolution on, but we lose a month then,
Yeah.
to just acknowledge that there's that hole in the system that needs to be filled, and take it up with the county board executive committee and chairman's office to work with staff to create a job description. And I guess on that subject, I agree with Roger. I don't know that this thing had to go out 6 days a week. There's 5 issues and then a recap on Saturday. And if it went out 2 or 3 times a week, that person could also be considered a communications director and handle a lot of things. We haven't done press conferences or press releases in a long, long time. And for example, everything that went on yesterday could have been handled by a communications director instead of IT, having to put on the swearing in ceremony and things like that. So something to think about.
Mr. Ford?
Thank you. I think now we have a pretty good definition of where this will go. I think it should go back to exec committee. One way to move it forward now is to, if we could get a resolution put together and have it ready for the next finance committee, which I believe within is about 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's within 2 weeks.
I'm sorry.
It's
17th?
17th, yes.
Oh, 30th. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's the
30th,
last week.
30th.
Right, it's the last week. Finance is usually the last week of the month.
So that would be my suggestion.
I agree with you.
For flow?
I just don't know, since it wasn't on our agenda today, if we can,
Well, can we do a consensus, or Madam Chairman?
Excuse me, and thank you for the liberty of speaking. This has been a critical issue for me on my now 3rd day on office. And we have a couple of things we have to address pretty quickly. As you are aware, we are in a COVID pandemic, and obviously, and vaccines are going to be distributed. We have local municipalities and villages who are very concerned about this communication of what we're going to be doing as a county, because we are the health department, and via the county is going to be doing the distribution. So we want to make sure that there's very clear, precise communication going out to the press on what this is going to be like, so that we will not cause any fears amongst the general public. We need this position to move along as quickly as the board will allow. So if I can ask for your liberty to be allowed to put together a job description so we have an idea of what the pay rate was going to be, and then bring that forward then to finance, because we need to get an idea of what the requirements are, what we are looking for, get the pay scale in order, and then start moving on that hire as quickly as we can. So I would appreciate your liberty with that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Allen, did you have something to say? I'm sorry.
Not anymore.
Oh, sorry.
Berman raised his hand.
Oh, good. Mr. Berman.
Rick Nagel did an outstanding job. We didn't have any communication throughout the county before he had that position. And I think that I know that people that I know that see it on a daily basis or a weekly basis were very impressed with what he did. It's a shame he's not there any longer. I think we need a communication director or someone who coordinates that. I think of the city of Aurora has a great communication department. And I'm sure other communities do also, but I think there's a real need for that. And I think Rick Nagel just did an outstanding job of providing the communication that throughout the county, which we never had before. So my comments.
Okay. Anybody else online? Comments? Committee members?
Could I make one more comment?
Sure, Mr. Frost.
I just think based on Chairman Prog's comments, the one thing I think we could do today is a consensus that we're acknowledging Director Feinstock's report from last month that there's a position that needs to be filled, and just do a consensus, and then it can move on from there to the appropriate path to the county board.
Does that sound reasonable to?
Kopi raises his hand.
Kopi, Mr. Kopi, sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Caius. To Ms. Chairman's point, is it possible that the Jobs Committee could spear the initiative that she suggests?
So the jobs, I think it would be, well, I'll defer to someone that has more experience with it than I do. Mr.
So-
Froz again?
The purpose of the Jobs Committee is to create and stimulate the economy of Kane County through jobs, not deal with jobs at the county. So it would be,
Or appropriate to,
and especially somebody that's going to report directly to the chairman. So I think the course of action we've laid out is appropriate.
that sound reasonable to the committee? Shall we do another roll call vote just for consensus? And this would be to move this item along and suggest that it go to the administration, executive, and then go to be presented in finance as some sort of an action item, so we can get it moved along, and not that we have authority to do that, but at least to push it that direction. Other comment, Mr.
I think I would
Ssa?
recommend the consensus for the creation of a job description and a request for the funding associated with it. That would go to finance. And then the executive committee would naturally see it after finance determines the funding. An executive would get a chance to make any recommendations at that point. And then ultimately, executive committee is where that position had made report regularly anyway. So they'd get to see it before it goes to full county board. One of the things then, talking with the interim executive director of the health department, they have, obviously different communications set up as well, but I know that that's an area that they are looking for support from the county board on to get more word out. And I do think that the expediency, getting something started quickly, I don't know if the board would entertain a special meeting maybe to try and get this done faster, because it's just everything is happening in December and January. So to wait till the January meeting will be another month goes by.
Too long. Mr. Martin?
I think would it simplify if what we did as a committee would be to arrive at a consensus, announce a consensus this morning that this matter is properly dealt with by the county board office and the executive branch, and that we defer to them to put together the necessary mechanism to get this matter before the board for a vote as soon as possible. And then we don't, rather than the minutia of us giving instructions on which committee it would go to and everything, let that be decided by the executive. And with the goal, and maybe it's a special meeting, whatever it is, let's if that's our consensus that we want to get it done, then let's just assign the task of getting it done without trying to determine how to do it.
Right.
I would agree with that, but I would like to acknowledge Director Fonstock's report from last month, acknowledging that there was a need and us addressing that.
There's a need to move it along rapidly, as rapidly as possible.
A need to create that position because there's a hole in the system right now.
Okay. Madam Chairman?
Thank you. And to your point, I received a phone call yesterday from Tony Preckwinkle's office. Matter of fact, we spoke, Chairman Preckwinkle, and she asked for the contact for a director of communications, at which point I said, may I get back to you?
I will say that I've talked to Mr. Nagel, and he's willing to work as a volunteer until such time he may be reinstated. I'm just throwing that out there, but if that need is that dire, he's willing.
It's a shame to lose him.
Yeah.
They did valuable work.
Yeah, if we adopting Drew's thought that we want to acknowledge the report by the IT department that they can deal with the mechanics, but that the content is where they're short. And that we by consensus, believe that the county board office should in fact put together a proposal that can be given to finance that relates to this. And if, for example, we need health department stuff, just throw that into the mix, and figure out where it's going to get, where and how it's going to get paid. But let them do it and get it in. I think it's a good idea to acknowledge that we've received the report and that we're moving it on because it needs further work than where it's at, and then let the work be done by the appropriate
And
group.
We're speaking to Madam Chairman there, because you're involved in the discussion. Once we turn it, because we have no authority to actually do anything to say you have to do something, we're turning it over to you to make sure that this is, as you expressed, as a priority item to have something happen with the knowledge that, as Roger was saying, that there is a need and that we are all in favor of it.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
a consensus then to do that, just so that we're all on board.
And one more item. Not only am I obviously concerned about the pandemic and communications, there's going to be other communications as well that's going to be coming out through the county, talking about what the county does. But I was also online to Mrs. Gums's point. The Kane County Connects social media has approximately 7,000 viewers. Kane County government, which to me is the umbrella for Kane County Connects, has, I think, 120.
Right.
Just give that pause.
I'm sorry, that was the
120.
120,000 for,
No, 100.
oh, 120.
120.
I could say, boy, that's a hidden gem. It's just hidden. It's not a gem at all.
So there are issues to address.
Yeah, great.
Rapidly, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, if I can get a nod from everyone here that's on the board, as for consensus here, rather than through full roll call. And then just those of you that are on the board that are online, if you have an objection to this, say something. Otherwise, we'll accept it as a consensus. So now's your chance.
I give my consensus. Bates.
Okay.
Berman's in favor of it.
All right. Thank you. So then.
Thank you.
We can move on with that. As there was one other item that I did remember. It was under old business. And I believe, Roger, maybe you could address it, would be the locks or access to the back of the building here to install.
So there are HID cards, which are proximity cards for access to the building. At one point in time, there was a desire to have a single entry point for the public. So they open the ground level door and the public comes in. There's a sheriff's deputy there now, which that's going to end at the end of December. We're in discussions with facilities about that now. I believe the request was for certain staff and officials to have proximity cards to come in through those doors. Is that?
No, I was talking about the doors back over here to come in the back way through rather than having to come through the front of the building.
Yeah, there are.
We have the cards, right?
Yeah,
but we don't have
cards.
the locks over here. We need a consensus to.
We would just need to have a proposal done and executed to add additional doors. Is that what we're looking for?
Yes, I have a quote. I got a quote yesterday for that. I know Ricky Sparks had done that early on and it kind of died out. So I contacted ADS with Mark Smith. We got a quote. So that is ready to go. If this committee would like us to move forward, I can get that done probably within the next 2 weeks.
For those of you who don't use, for the new members, everybody's always coming through the front of the chamber here, but there is an access point on the side of the building. Well, there's a stairs right here to get in, but you can go, only way you can get to the stairs is through the auditorium downstairs or from a door over here on the side of the building. So if you want to come into the chamber without walking through all of the meeting, say up to the head of the room up here, the only access point would be to come in on the side of the building and then come in this way. Otherwise, you're disrupting you may be disrupting the meeting or feel uncomfortable. And to get to your seat up here in the seating area. And Mr.
Charles, is it just that one door that we're looking to add controls to then?
Right now, it would be that one door, possibly with the option to add one at the top of the stairs also, just to limit people coming in that weren't expected. It also would give board members access to come up, go through the side and use the conference room or the back offices without interrupting the meeting if they want to use it before a meeting.
Well put, thank you.
I think the other door that you'd need access to, which I don't know that it's on their card now, is this back door down below.
It would be this door right here that I have the
But
quote.
yeah, we'd have to give them access to the door off of the little stairwell as well, so they could go between the two doors. Otherwise, we can figure that out.
Yeah. The point being that you could come in and use the offices. Well,
sure.
Because when both chambers are busy, you have maybe a board meeting going here. And I understand we're using the downstairs quite a bit now for training and things like that as a point. And there's a way for board members to get to the offices back here or through back here into the chamber. And I've been in favor of it for quite some time, and I would entertain anyone, any comments from the other members of the committee. All we need is a consensus to have, and essentially it's just to add door access to this one. We already have access here and over by the auditor's office. Any comment from the board?
Would this be access that would be restricted to us using our key card?
Yes. I'll defer that to Mr. Fossack. Yes, that's.
My
that
key
was the
card
idea.
has never worked anyway, but, and this is the last place I want to be after 4:30 in the afternoon. So I have, that's fine. Okay. One of my concerns about this building from a safety perspective is that there are so many ways of getting in that I just want to make sure that if we're gaining access, improving access for the board, that it's not going to be something that can be converted into an open door for the public. I mean, this place is, you can crawl through you can practically crawl up the gutters into this place, which has always bothered me.
There would be security that would be vetted, I'm guessing. But
Just
Mr.
my only
Frost,
question, right now with the deputy there, we do the temperature check. So are we going to have a thermometer there, or is that going to go away with COVID?
I'm not sure if we'd be able to use it until the temperature check was
We
not
can,
required.
we can add a wall mount scanner just like at that door, and board members could self-check. Or we could wait until that's over at the end of December, whichever you prefer.
Which is in December.
Yeah, at the end of this month right now, that's the plan.
So.
That's still being worked on.
Okay,
So it's going to change within a matter of a few weeks, right?
My understanding from Detective Kadich is that they're going to operate through January.
Oh, through
So-
January? Okay,
Extended that time period.
okay. Well, hopefully,
Oh.
eventually, the COVID will be gone and we won't have to worry about that. But anybody else on the board have a comment or online committee members? Miss Allen?
I'm just going to make the same suggestion that I made when this came up before. There is a monthly fee connected to any of these doors that we have. And I just suggested that we try and figure out how many people would use it, how many times. Naturally, people don't want to walk through here when there are meetings. The other choice is to walk through the auditorium. The auditorium is frequently empty. I understand it will be used more and more as people are pulled back in from remote locations. When they do need to meet together, they would use the auditorium. But I just don't know how much use of that auditorium there's going to be for quite a while. So I would just say if 6 people are making use of this extra door, if 10 people are, if 12 people are, if it's one visit a month, or if it's a visit every week, I would look to that data before I would go into the expense of the extra door. But that's for the committee.
Thank you. Madam Chairman?
I feel like I'm the COVID messenger today, which I hope you don't mind. I am somewhat concerned from what I've just learned that the sheriff and temperature monitoring is going to be finished, now extended on through January. The vaccines are not going to be widely distributed until, for the general public, most likely until late spring, early summer. We have a large population of people coming in and out of here who may be carrying COVID. So we still need to have some level of protection. Self-monitoring is fine for employees. I'm sure they'd be respectful of that. But if we're having guests coming in to pay a bill or doing business with the county, how are we going to dissuade them if there's not somebody there just monitoring their temperature?
I have a question, Roger.
Sure.
Are people using these doors access to over here? Are employees using the key locks over here now?
Yeah, if they have key card access granted to them, they can use those doors. And I do know that there are people from different offices that I believe have been granted those. They do come in through the main entrance to get checked in the morning.
Yeah.
So at least they're supposed to. I think when they take a break or they leave the building, the doors are egress doors, so you can go out all of them for fire code. So if they exit the building, that's certainly something that we expect. But I think the other thing is that there's been a couple discussions. Mr. Allen and a couple of us are talking about the security and accessing this building and how that's going to go forward. I think there's questions about sheriff's deputies staffing the door with maybe something more reception type of thing versus deputies. I think that's a security question that we'll get through in the next couple weeks. Hopefully we can have a really good recommendation before the end of January, and you'll see kind of a seamless coverage.
Mr. Chair, Gums.
Ms. Gums?
I personally believe that we should maintain the single entrance right now due to the virus. I don't think adding extra self-checking things is a great idea. I would like to see it remain the way it is with the single door access right now.
Thank you. And anybody else on the committee? Then Mr. Allen?
Yes, sir. To expand what Roger was talking about is what I have taken the initiative to set up a meeting with all representatives of elected officials in Building A, as well as the respective department heads, to discuss the wants, the needs, the asks, the options. And then once we come together with a firm solution that's agreeable to all, then I'll bring that forward. We could be looking at what, like Roger alluded to, personnel, a capital project. So there's many ways this can go to meet this solution for the current time and beyond. But once we have that, well, I'll get that information to you for review. And of course, Madam Chairman.
I should have known you guys were ahead of the game on this. I just wanted to bring it up. Okay, well, it sounds reasonable, and then the impression I'm getting from the committee is that that we will delay this or roll it into the project that you're doing now to reevaluate things and see how it shakes out then. So I apologize for any extra time. I know that runs long. This committee does. Is there anything else for old business? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to place the reports on file. Mr. Ford.
I make the motion to place the reports on file.
Mr. Martin seconds. We have roll call then. Karen, thank you.
Berman,
Berman, yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Gums,
Gums, yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Caius.
Caius, yes.
Thank you.
Is there any need for executive session today? Seeing none, I will then entertain a motion to adjourn. We don't have Boigeman around. Mr. Ford moves, Mr. Frost second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same
Aye.
sign. Okay. Thank you. We